How do you react when you wake up from a coma and hear your own son plan your wife's future like she is a piece of furniture to move after you are gone? How do you stay calm when he calls her the old lady and talks about a nursing home while you are still lying there? I chose to keep my eyes closed, listen, and start planning. Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Felix Stein, and when I woke up, I did not open my eyes. At first, I did not even know where I was. I only felt the air in my nose, dry and cold. I heard a slow beeping sound on my left. I heard something breathing for me, then I understood it was a machine. My chest moved, but it did not feel like it was my decision. I lay there and waited. I did not try to move my hands or feet. I listened. There was a soft humming in the room. A chair creaked. Far away, something rolled along the floor. The sheets under me were stiff. My tongue felt like paper. All of this came in small pieces, like someone turning on the lights in a long hallway, one by one. Then I heard a voice I knew too well. It was my son, Eric. His voice was sharper than before, more tired, more rushed. He spoke in a lower tone, but the room was quiet, so every word found me without effort. For a moment, my heart jumped with simple joy. I thought he was there to talk to me, to say he was glad I was still here, to ask how I felt. He was not talking to me. He was near the door, speaking to someone else. His words were clear, but I could also hear another person, a woman with a calm and even tone. I later learned her name was Ms. Patel, the hospital social worker. Eric explained my condition to her as if he had already accepted that I would not come back. He said the doctors were not sure how much of me was still in there. He said he had to think about the future, about my wife, about the old lady, as he called her. With those words, something inside me turned to glass. He did not say my wife's name. He did not say my mother. He just said the old lady. He spoke about Anna like she was a task on a list, not a person. Ms. Patel asked him about support at home. I could not hear every sentence, but the tone was clear. She used words like care, safety, and long-term. She wanted to know who could help my wife if I did not recover well. Eric said that my wife had problems with walking and balance and that she could not manage alone. He said he was busy with his real estate work and that he could not come every day. He said his partner, Tessa, also had a very full schedule. He said a small apartment in a nursing home would be more practical for an older woman. He did not ask what Anna wanted. He did not ask what I wanted. He only talked about what would be easier for him. I lay there, still and quiet. I felt my fingertips tingle, and I realized then that I could move them a little. I did not move them. I did not trust my face either. I was afraid my eyelids might tremble. I did not want anyone to know that I was already back. I wanted to listen. Ms. Patel asked about legal papers. She used a soft tone, but she was direct. She asked if there was any power of attorney, any will, any plan made before my coma. Eric said that yes, he already had power of attorney for me and my wife. He said he could sign forms and make decisions. That was when the cold feeling spread through my body. A calm cold, not panic. I remembered the day we had signed that paper. I had been tired after a small health scare. Eric had brought the form and told me it was just in case of emergency. He had used the word temporary. He had said it was to help us, not to control us. Now I heard how he talked about that same paper. He told Ms. Patel that if the doctors said my mind might not be reliable, he would be ready to step in. He said he wanted to be proactive and responsible. He sounded like a good son to someone who did not know us. I knew better. There was a small pause, then I heard a quiet sob. It came from the chair beside my bed. That was Anna. I knew her crying sounds almost better than her speaking voice. When she tried to speak, her words broke. She said she did not want to be a problem. She said she would do what was best. Eric told her that of course he loved us and wanted what was best, but he had to be realistic. He reminded her that the house was too big and too old for them. He said the stairs were a hazard. He said either she moved to a facility or he would worry all the time. He said that selling the house would help cover future care. He used many words like safety, future, and plan. I heard another word between the lines. Profit. I knew my son's voice when he talked about money, about value, about property. He used that same tone now while speaking about the home where we had raised him. Ms. Patel suggested a care conference for tomorrow. She said the doctor, the hospital lawyer, and the family should all sit down together. She said they could talk about guardianship and long-term care options. I heard the soft sound of a pen on paper. I imagined her writing my name, my wife's name, and some label on a folder. Footsteps came closer. The door opened quietly. I forced my eyes to stay closed. A soft hand touched my wrist. A woman's voice spoke close to my ear. She called me Mr. Stein. That was Nurse Julia. At the time I did not know her name, but I knew kindness when I heard it. She told my wife that I was stable. She said my reflexes had improved. She said it was a good sign. She spoke slowly, like she wanted Anna to breathe with her. Then she said that I might wake up more in the next days and that we should be patient. I almost laughed in my head. I was already awake, more than any of them knew. It was a strange feeling, to be both present and invisible. Nurse Julia shone a light near my eyes. I did not react. I focused on a point far away in my mind. I pretended I was watching a film of my own life, and I was just a viewer now, not a part of the scene. She made a small, satisfied sound and said my eyes were reacting better. She spoke in a tone that carried hope. Then she walked to the end of the bed. I heard the rustle of paper. She slid a thick yellow folder into a slot and said that the care conference was scheduled for tomorrow at 10 in the morning. I filed that time away in my mind like I used to do with deadlines at work. Anna moved closer to my head. I felt her fingers on my arm. Her hand was still small and warm, but weaker than before. She whispered my name, that asked if I could hear her. I wanted to answer so badly that my throat tightened, but if I did, Eric would know too. I needed more time. Eric walked to the window. I heard the click of his heels on the floor. He sounded restless. He told Ms. Patel that he had already spoken with a nursing home. He said they had a room ready and could hold it if he confirmed soon. He said he did not see the point of waiting if the doctors believed I would not come back to my old self. He did not know that the man he was talking about was listening to each syllable. He called his mother the old lady again. He said she could not stay in that big house without constant help. He said he could not keep driving over every time she needed something. He said a staff member could handle her care much better. He did not talk about visiting her. He did not talk about spending time with her. He talked about schedules and distance and cost. I lay there and slowly let a new thought settle in. For years, I had made excuses for him. I had told myself he was busy, that his work was stressful. I had said he would calm down and be more present when he got older. Now I heard his voice without any filter. I heard how he spoke when he thought I was helpless. I did not feel rage. I felt a clear and simple understanding. My son saw us as tasks and assets. He saw our house as property that could be turned into numbers on a screen. He saw my wife as a person who had already moved to some corner of his mind where old things go. I also remembered something else, hidden under years of routine. I remembered that the house deed still carried only my name. I remembered that day at the office when the clerk had asked if we wanted to add our son to it, and I had said no. I had told myself there was time for that later. Now I was glad I had waited. I remembered my old friend Owen and the long talk we had when Eric was younger and already impatient. Owen had said that respect should matter in a family. He had asked if I wanted to add a clause to my will to reflect that. I had agreed, then I had never thought about it again. Now all those memories lined up in my mind like tools on a shelf. In the room, Ms. Patel thanked Eric for sharing. She said she understood his concerns. She said the hospital had to consider what would be best for everyone. She spoke to my wife and said they would discuss options together tomorrow. Her voice was kind, but it also followed a clear script. I realized that if I did nothing, this script would become our life. I heard Eric's phone buzz on the table next to my bed. It vibrated against the hard surface, making a small rattling sound. He picked it up and made a satisfied noise. He told Ms. Patel that the nursing home had sent a confirmation. They were holding a room and waiting for the family's decision after the hospital meeting. He sounded pleased, as if he had just closed a deal. I stayed very still and counted my breaths. In that moment, I made my own decision. I would open my eyes, but not yet. I would let them think I was still half asleep a little longer. I would listen more. I would gather every detail, every date, every plan they made around me. They were planning my wife's future and my own life like we were not there. I decided I would show them how wrong they were, but I would do it in a way they understood best, with papers, dates, signatures, and calm facts. Before I tell you what happened after that morning in the hospital, I need to explain how we reached this point. Waking up to those words from my son hurt, but they did not appear from nowhere. They were the tip of something that had grown slowly for years, right in front of us. Our house was a small, 2-story place in a quiet street. Anna and I moved there when Eric was a baby. We painted the walls ourselves. I still remember the smell of fresh paint and the sound of his little feet on the wooden stairs. Back then, the house was not too big. It was full. I worked at the city office for decades. My job was not exciting. I dealt with forms, permits, and records. Many people might find that boring. For me, it was simple and clear. I liked rules. I liked that if you filled out the right document and followed the steps, things moved forward. When Eric was young, he used to come to my desk after school sometimes. He would sit on the chair next to me and watch me stamp papers. He used to say that the sound of the stamp was powerful. I would laugh and tell him that the real power was in the words on the page. Anna stayed home with him for many years. She cooked, cleaned, and helped with homework. She went to every school event. I missed some of them because of work, but she always told me about them in detail. Eric used to run to the door when I came home. He would pull on my sleeve and show me his drawings. Things began to change slowly when he became a teenager. That is normal, I know. He spent more time in his room, more time with friends. He rolled his eyes at my old jacket. He laughed at my careful habits. At first it did not bother me. I told myself it was just age. One day, when he was about 15, he told Anna that my job was nothing special. He said that I was just pushing paper. He said real power came from owning things, not from checking forms. Anna told me about this later in a soft voice, almost apologizing for him. I said it was just youth talking. I started to hear this same way of thinking from him again and again. He admired people who owned buildings, cars, and companies. He spoke with bright eyes about city projects, not because they helped people, but because they raised prices. He began to see everything as part of a trade. When he finished school, he did not want university. He said it was too slow. He wanted to work in real estate. He wanted quick results. I was unsure, but he was our only child, and he spoke with so much energy that I gave in. I told him I would help him with the cost of his license course. We took money from our savings, money we had kept aside for later years. I signed the papers at the bank. Anna watched me with worried eyes, but she smiled when Eric hugged her and thanked her. He said he would pay us back many times over. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. The first years in his job were hard. He changed agencies a few times. He called us for help more than once when his car broke down or when he was short for rent. Anna always found a way. She sold some jewelry one year without telling me, then later admitted it. She said it was for his fresh start. I did not blame him then. Many young people struggle at the beginning. I told him that we believed in him and that he just had to keep going. He nodded, but I noticed that he never asked how we were managing after giving so much. He assumed we were fine. He assumed we would always be there. When he finally began to earn more, his visits changed. He came to the house in better clothes, with a new watch on his wrist. He talked about closing deals and making contacts. He looked around the rooms like he was inspecting them. He would say things like that the neighborhood was rising in value. He told us that we were sitting on wasted potential. He said we could move to a smaller apartment and live more comfortably with extra money. He kept reminding us that stairs were not kind to older knees. He presented this as care, but his eyes always moved to the windows, to the garden, to the street. Around that time, my health started to shift. I had a small issue with my heart that sent me to the clinic for a few nights. It was not serious, but it scared Anna. It scared Eric too, but it also gave him an idea. He came to the house with a stack of papers one weekend. He said that we needed to be practical. He said, if something happened to us, someone had to be able to sign forms, talk to doctors, and handle bills. He used the word emergency many times. He told us that a power of attorney was just a tool for safety. He said he would never use it unless needed. Anna was nervous, but he spoke gently to her. He said he just wanted to help. I had just come home from the clinic. I felt tired and old. I did not want more problems. I trusted my son. I read only the first page. Then I signed. Anna signed her part too. That is how Eric became the person who could act for us. For some time, nothing seemed to change. Life went back to normal. I returned to work, then later took my pension. I spent more time in the garden. Anna and I walked slowly around the block in the evenings. Eric visited from time to time, always busy, always on his phone, but I noticed small things. Once he paid a bill at the bank using the power of attorney without asking us. Another time he spoke to our insurance agent as if he was the owner of our policy. When I asked him about it, he said he was just saving us trouble. His voice had a hint of impatience. As the years passed, Anna's legs became weaker. Stairs tired her. I had a small stroke that left my right hand less steady. After that, Eric pushed his ideas harder. He talked more loudly about the house being too much. He suggested again that we move, that we sell, that we live better. He did not understand that the house itself was part of what made us feel safe. Every scratch on the door, every mark on the stairs, every old picture on the wall was a piece of our life. To him, these were just features on a sheet, positive or negative points that changed a price. We had one sharp conversation a year before my coma. He came to dinner, and after we ate, he opened his laptop at our table. He showed us sales of similar houses in the area. He spoke about high numbers. He drew lines on a small digital map. He said we were holding on to the past and blocking our own comfort. Anna asked what he meant by comfort. He said we could move to a modern apartment with an elevator, with no stairs, with services nearby. He said we could give him power to handle everything. He said we should let him take care of us and stop worrying. I watched his eyes while he talked. They did not look at us, they looked at the screen. I knew then that when he said, "Take care of us," he also meant take control of what we had. I did not accuse him. I simply closed the laptop and said I needed time to think. He looked offended, but left it there. After that night, his visits became less warm. He would still call, but his tone was short. He often reminded us how busy he was. He said his work was demanding and that he could not always pick up. Anna tried to defend him. She said he worked hard, that he was under stress, that we should be patient. One winter, a pipe in the bathroom broke. It was late at night. Water spread across the floor. I called a plumber. While we waited, I slipped and hit my shoulder. Nothing serious, but it scared Anna so much that she called Eric too. He arrived late, looked around, and said this proved his point about the house. He said that these old problems would keep coming. He said we would call him every time something broke. He said he had a life of his own and could not be on constant call. He did not ask if I was in pain. He did not ask Anna how she felt after the scare. His focus stayed on his argument. Not long after that, I had the event that led to my coma. I was on my way to the corner shop when my legs gave out. I remember the sky tilting and someone shouting, then nothing for a long time. When I was moved from one ward to another, when machines were attached, when doctors spoke, I was not aware. While I lay there, Eric became the voice for our family. He showed the power of attorney at the desk. He made decisions. He told Anna how things would go. He told staff that he was in charge. He was careful in his words with them, but his old habits were still inside. He had already started to speak about the house and about Anna's future before I woke up. That much I understood from the first day I listened in the hospital. Those words were not new for him. The only new thing was that now he believed I was gone for good. Listening to him there, using the same phrases he had used at our dinner table, I could see the full line from the first small eye roll at my job to his plan to move his mother out of her home. It was not sudden. It was a slow slide, one I had watched and tried to excuse for too long. That was why, as I lay there in that hospital bed, I did not feel confused. I felt like I was seeing a final piece of a puzzle fall into place. The picture was not pleasant, but it was clear. And once something is clear, it can be handled, step by step, with the same patience I used on every form I ever processed. The morning after I heard Eric in the hallway, I woke up to bright light on my face and the sound of wheels. Someone was moving a cart. My head felt clearer than before. My body was still heavy, but I could feel my fingers, my toes, my tongue. I knew I could open my eyes if I wanted to. I kept them closed. A man's voice spoke near my bed. It was the main doctor. He said that I seemed more responsive. He mentioned some numbers, talked about reflexes and brain activity. He told the nurse that they would try more tests that day. I felt the mattress move as he lifted my hand and let it drop again. I let it fall, but I controlled it more than he knew. He left, and for a while, the room was quiet. I heard the cleaning cart in the corridor, footsteps, a radio far away. My mind walked in circles around what I had heard the day before. The words about the old lady, the talk about a room waiting in a nursing home, the way Eric spoke about me as if I were already gone. Later in the morning, I heard Anna's soft voice, then heavier steps. Eric had returned. The doctor called them into the small space by the window. He thought I could not hear well, but sound travels strangely in a hospital room. I caught enough. The doctor said that my condition was better than expected. He said that my eyes seemed to react, that my breathing was more stable. He explained that it was still early and that they needed to be careful. He mentioned the care conference and said they would talk there about support at home and any legal questions. Eric asked what would happen if my mind did not fully clear. He asked if they could say that I would not be able to make decisions the way I used to. His tone was not sad, it was practical. He wanted a clear label, something he could use. The doctor said that such decisions took time and tests. He reminded them that I might improve more. He said they had to wait and see. I heard a small sigh from Eric. To him, this was a delay in a plan, not hope for his father. When he spoke again, he said he was ready to step in and take responsibility if needed. He mentioned again that he already held power of attorney. Hearing that, something inside me settled. This was the line for me. Until then, I could have told myself that he was just worried, that he did not know what to do. But this was clear. He wanted a paper that said I was not able to decide, while I lay there listening to every word. After the doctor left, I heard them move closer to my bed. Anna took my hand. She told Eric that she thought I looked better. She said she had seen my fingers move in the night. Eric said that sometimes the body moved without the mind. He said she should not hold on to illusions. He spoke in a gentle voice, but his words were hard. He told her that once I was gone or unable to think clearly, he would make sure she was safe. He repeated that he had already spoken with the nursing home. He said again that the room was ready and that it would be the best place for the old lady when the time came. He said he could not wait forever to decide. He said that as soon as I was gone, he would not let her stay alone in that house for even a week. When I heard that phrase, I knew that he had already placed me outside of his plans. In his mind, I was not a person in the room anymore. I was a future event. This brought a strange calm to me. If he had already erased me, then I was free to act without worrying about his feelings. That day passed slowly. Nurses came and went. They checked numbers, changed bags, wrote notes. Anna sat by my bed for hours. I could feel her thumb moving over the back of my hand in small circles. Once, I opened my eyes just a tiny bit and saw her profile, thin and tired, under the bright light. In the late afternoon, Eric left. He said he had work and could not stay longer. Anna did not argue. When the door closed behind him, the room became softer. The beeping sounded less sharp. The air felt less heavy. It was just my wife and me. I decided that this was the moment. I moved my fingers around her hand in a slow, clear squeeze. She froze. I felt her head turn toward me. She called my name in a small voice. I squeezed again. Then I opened my eyes. It took effort, but I did it. The light was strong, and her face was blurred at first. Then her eyes came into focus. They were wide and wet. She started to speak fast. She asked if I could really see her. She asked if I understood. She began to cry and laugh at the same time. I wanted to take her in my arms, but my muscles were weak. So I did the only thing I could do. I held her gaze and nodded very slowly. I told her, in a hoarse whisper, that I had been listening. I said I had heard Eric. I said I knew about the nursing home room and the talk about the house. My voice was rough, but the words were clear. She looked at the door, afraid that someone might hear. I told her not to worry, that I would speak softly. She said she had been so afraid that I would never come back. She said Eric had told her that it was time to think about practical things. He had brought more papers for her to sign, papers about the house and the bank. She said she had signed one page but refused others because her hands started to shake. I asked her what he had told her about those papers. She said he had called them small steps, temporary measures, things to make it easier to help us. She admitted that she had not really read them. She had trusted him. I felt a wave of guilt for the position we had put her in. We had raised our son to speak with confidence. We had not taught him enough about care, but guilt would not help us now. I pushed it aside. I told her that for now, nobody must know that my mind was this clear. I said she should tell staff that I was waking slowly, that I was sometimes aware and sometimes confused. I needed a little time where Eric believed I was still weak and unaware. That was our small advantage. She did not like the idea of hiding anything. I could see it in her face. But she trusted me. She had seen me handle problems for many years. She knew that when I spoke in this slow, steady way, I was not acting out of fear. I was planning. I reminded her of the metal box in the home office. It sat at the back of the lowest shelf, behind some old folders. I told her that inside it, there was a blue folder and a small USB drive in a clear plastic bag. I asked her to go home that evening, open the box, and bring those two things back to the hospital tomorrow, hidden in her bag. She asked what they were. I told her that the blue folder held copies of our deeds, our old will, and the power of attorney papers. I said the USB drive held scans of our bank statements and some old messages from Eric when he had needed help. I said that years ago I had made this small archive, more out of habit than fear. Now that habit might save us. I told her not to show these things to anyone yet, not to the doctor, not to the social worker, and certainly not to our son. She was to bring them only to me, then we would decide together what to do. She nodded. She pressed my hand to her face for a moment. Then she wiped her eyes and told me that she would do exactly what I had asked. She said she would act the same as before in front of Eric, quiet and unsure, and that she would let them think I was still mostly sleeping. In the evening, Nurse Julia came in for the night shift. She checked the monitors, adjusted my pillow, and began her usual routine. I decided it was time to let one more person see a little more of my awareness. When she took my wrist, I tightened my hand around her fingers, just a little. She paused. I opened my eyes and looked at her. Her face changed from usual calm to alert. She greeted me gently and asked if I knew where I was. I nodded. She asked if I knew my name. I whispered it. She smiled and said that this was very good progress. I told her, in short sentences, that I had been listening for some time. I said I knew she had to write everything she saw in the chart. I did not ask her to lie. I only asked for one thing. I asked if, when the doctor planned the care conference, she could make sure that Anna was called first. I said I wanted my wife there before any decisions were made. She thought for a moment, then said that she could tell the doctor that my wife was the one who stayed with me most and that she should be the first contact. That was true, so it did not break any rule. She said she would also tell the doctor that my awareness seemed to be returning fast. I thanked her. She told me that I needed rest and that we would see what the next day brought. Before she left, she put her hand on my shoulder in a firm, friendly way. It was the first time in days that someone touched me like a person, not a patient. The next morning, they moved me in a wheelchair for some tests. I answered the doctor's questions slowly but clearly. He seemed surprised, then pleased. He said that if I kept improving, they could talk soon about moving me to a regular room and then home with support. The word home sounded like a promise in my ears. Later that day, Nurse Julia suggested a short ride in the wheelchair to the small cafe near the hospital entrance. She said fresh air would help. She wheeled me down the corridor, out of the ward, into a place with big windows and the smell of coffee. She asked if I felt all right and then went to get tea for Anna, who was due to arrive. For the first time since the coma, I was sitting alone, without Eric, without Anna, without a nurse watching every breath. On the little table in front of me sat Anna's old phone, which she had left for me the night before. I could see it clearly. My hand shook, but I reached for it. I found Owen's number in the contacts. My thumb pressed the call button. The ring sounded loud in my ear. I wondered if he would recognize my voice after so much time. He answered with a simple hello, and then said my name at once because the screen had shown it. I heard surprise and relief in his tone. I told him, in a few clear phrases, that I had come out of a coma, that my son had plans for my wife and our house that did not match our wishes, and that he was using the old power of attorney for his own idea of what was practical. I said that I needed to know exactly what was in our will and in any clause we had once discussed about respect and behavior. I asked if he still had copies. He said that, of course, he had them, and that he would bring them when we could meet. He reminded me that for now I should focus on getting stronger, but he also said that we could prepare in our heads. We kept the call short. My voice tired easily, and I did not want anyone to walk in while I was speaking. When I ended the call, I put the phone down and folded my hands in my lap. I was still in a hospital gown, still weak and pale, still tied to machines and schedules. But now I had 3 small, solid things. My wife on my side, a careful nurse who had seen my eyes open, and a lawyer friend who remembered our old talks about respect. In my mind, the first lines of a plan began to form, simple and steady, like the lines on the forms I used to stamp every day. The next morning began with a sharp knock on the door and the rustle of papers. The main doctor came in with a younger doctor and a nurse. The room felt smaller with all of them there. I pulled myself up a little on the pillow and tried to look as awake as I felt. The doctor checked my eyes, my grip, and my answers to simple questions. I told him my full name, my address, and the year. I named my wife and my son. My voice was slow, but my words were clear. He watched me closely and wrote notes on his chart. He said that my progress in the last 2 days was very good. He reminded me that I had been in a coma and that recovery could still be uneven, but he also said that my awareness and memory were strong. He used the word competent. I noted it and held it in my mind like a small stone. Then he began to speak about the care conference. He said they would still talk about long-term support for me and for Anna, because my body was not ready for full independence. He spoke about home visits from nurses, about therapy, about equipment for the house. I listened politely. When he finished, I asked in a calm voice if there was any medical reason I could not go home soon with proper support. He looked surprised. He said that they had planned to keep me a few more days, but that they could consider an earlier discharge if I continued to improve and if my wife agreed. He asked if I felt confident I could handle being at home. I told him I had handled a full-time job and a household for many years, and that I understood rules and routines. I said I would follow instructions. I did not sound proud. I sounded steady. He said he would think about it and talk with the team. After he left, Nurse Julia smiled at me and said I had done well. She said the word competent again, gently, as if reminding both of us that someone had said it out loud. Later that morning, there was some movement in the hallway. I heard Eric's voice, louder than usual, asking about the conference. He had arrived early. I also heard Anna's softer answer. Then Ms. Patel's calm voice joined them. The door opened, and they came in together. The doctor explained my progress again. He said he wanted to cancel the care conference for that day and wait a bit, because my condition had changed enough that their earlier plan might no longer be right. He said they would schedule a new meeting later, if needed. I saw the change in Eric's face. His jaw tightened. He asked if this meant more time before any decisions about long-term arrangements could be made. The doctor said yes for now, because they needed to see how I managed in the next days. Then the doctor turned to me and asked how I felt about going home soon. I said I wanted to leave as soon as it was safe, and that I wished to recover in my own house. I looked at Anna, and she nodded quickly before Eric could say anything. Eric tried anyway. He said that home might not be the best place, that it might be better to move me from the hospital directly to a facility. He used careful words, but the message was clear. The doctor listened, but he also pointed out that I was awake, aware, and able to speak for myself. He said that as long as my body could manage and my mind was clear, my wishes were important. I almost smiled at that. For the first time in this whole event, someone with authority said out loud that I still had a voice. The doctor suggested that if my tests remained good that day, we could plan a discharge for the next morning. He said Anna would need to sign some papers and agree to home care visits. He spoke about safety, railings, and simple exercises. Anna agreed to all of it. Eric said nothing for a moment. Then he said that he understood and that he only wanted what was best. His tone was smooth again, but it sounded thinner than before. Ms. Patel wrote something on her tablet. I wondered what her notes looked like when someone changed tone like that. After they left the room, Anna leaned close to me. She whispered that she had found the metal box in the home office and had brought the blue folder and the USB drive. They were inside her bag, under a scarf. She tapped the bag with her foot and gave me a quick look. For someone who hated secrets, she was suddenly very good at them. I could not read or work with those documents in the hospital, but knowing they were close gave me a strange sense of strength. It was as if a piece of our home had come to stand beside my bed. All that day, I focused on doing the small tasks the nurses gave me. I walked a few steps with help. I sat in a chair for a while instead of staying in the bed. I ate a little more. I forced my body to cooperate because I needed to leave that place before any more meetings could shape our future without us. By evening, the discharge plan was set. The nurse brought a stack of papers and explained the home care schedule. She had Anna sign in several places. I listened to every line. When she left, I asked Anna to let me see the pages. I could not hold them long, but I read the headings. I made sure no one else's name appeared as decision maker. It was all between the hospital and us. The next morning, the room looked different. The machines were being unhooked one by one. My arm felt lighter without the tube. They helped me dress in my own clothes. The fabric felt strange on my skin after the hospital gown, but it also felt like a shield. Anna had called our neighbor, Mr. Klein, to pick us up. He was a quiet man who lived across the street from us. He did not know all the details, only that I was coming home and that we needed a ride. He was happy to help. The hospital had us wait in a small discharge area near the exit. They brought a wheelchair for me. Anna stood next to me, her bag in her hands, looking both nervous and proud. Nurse Julia came by to say goodbye. She shook my hand and wished me good luck. There was real warmth in her eyes. I asked her, in a low voice, to please make sure that any notes about my awareness were clear in the file. She said they already were. I wanted that record to exist, in case anyone later tried to call me confused or unable to decide. We were just about to leave when I saw Eric's shape at the end of the corridor. He had come, but he was late. He walked quickly towards us, surprise on his face. He looked at the wheelchair, at the bag, at the papers in Anna's hand. He asked why no one had told him that I was leaving that morning. Anna said that the time had been decided late and that she had been busy with the forms. She did not apologize. That was new. He started to say something about the care conference, about plans, about the nursing home room. I cut him off gently. I told him that the doctor believed I could go home and that this was what I wanted. I said that we would talk about support later, when I had rested. He opened his mouth again, then closed it. There were too many staff members around for him to push harder. He did not want to sound like someone arguing against his own father's wish to go home. Mr. Klein arrived at that moment, a little out of breath from the parking lot. He greeted Anna and then nodded to me with wide eyes. It was probably strange for him to see me so pale and thin in that chair. Still, he smiled and said it was good to have me back. The orderly wheeled me out through a side door. The air outside felt cool and real. For a moment, I just breathed it in, slow and deep. The hospital slid behind us, big and white and full of sounds that were not my problem anymore, at least for now. As we turned out of the driveway, I saw Eric's car in the main parking lot. He had parked in a hurry, crooked between two lines. He stood next to it on his phone, looking frustrated. He did not see our car slip past the corner and head for home. The drive was short, but each street we passed felt like another layer of normal life returning. When we pulled up in front of our house, I looked at it with new eyes. The paint was a little faded. The steps were worn. The roof needed attention. To Eric, it was a set of problems. To me, it was something worth protecting. Mr. Klein helped me out of the car and into the house. The smell of our hallway, a mix of old wood and Anna's soap, filled my nose. It was the first time in many days that I felt truly grounded. He left after making sure I was seated in my chair. Anna thanked him many times. When the door closed behind him, we were alone in our home. The silence felt rich, full of familiar things. I asked Anna to bring me to the small office at the back of the house instead of to the living room. She helped me stand and walk slowly, holding my arm. Each step was careful, but I felt stronger with every movement. The office looked almost the same as before. The desk was covered in old folders, pens, and a lamp. The metal box sat on the bottom shelf, half hidden. Anna had already opened it the night before. She took out the blue folder and the small plastic bag with the USB drive and placed them on the desk. I rested in the chair and opened the folder with hands that shook from effort, not from fear. Inside were the documents I remembered: the deed to the house, copies of the will, the power of attorney papers. I did not read every line yet. I just checked that they were all there. I slid the deed and the will to one side and looked at the power of attorney papers more closely. I saw my own signature, and Anna's, and Eric's. I saw phrases I had not paid attention to before. They gave him a wide range of power. Reading them now, I felt a quiet anger at my own carelessness. Anna stood at my shoulder, watching my face. I told her not to worry, that the documents could be changed, especially now that my mind was clear and my body was strong enough to walk into an office. I said that I did not plan to do anything fast or wild. I would follow the same rules I had followed all my life, but I would use them for us. That afternoon, after a short rest, we called Owen's office from the home phone. The assistant recognized my name and sounded surprised to hear my voice. I told her I had just left the hospital and wanted to see Mr. Mercer as soon as possible about some family documents. She offered us an appointment the next morning. Her tone shifted when she heard that I had just come out of a serious health event. She said she would make sure there was enough time. I thanked her and wrote the time down on a scrap of paper next to the phone. The next day, Mr. Klein drove us again, this time to Owen's office. The building was a simple block with glass doors and a small sign. Inside, the air smelled of paper and coffee. The waiting room chairs were lined up in careful rows. It reminded me of my own old office, and that calmed me. Owen came out to greet us himself. He was older, with more gray hair, but his eyes were the same. He shook my hand firmly and then helped Anna sit. He did not rush us. He waited until I settled in the chair across from his desk. We put the blue folder and the USB drive on the table between us. I told him, in plain language, what had happened since my collapse. I told him about waking up, about Eric's words in the hallway, about the nursing home room, about the power of attorney being used as a tool for his plans. Owen listened without interrupting, his fingers lightly touching the edge of the folder. When I finished, he drew in a slow breath and said that this was serious, but not hopeless. He said that as long as I was clear and able to decide, we had options, many options. He opened the folder and glanced at the documents, just enough to confirm what they were. Then he closed it again and said we would go through them together, step by step, in the right order. He reminded me that we could not change the past, but we could decide what happened from now on. After leaving his office, we went to the bank on the corner. We sat with the branch manager in a small glass room. I showed my identification and spoke carefully about wanting to review who had access to our accounts. I did not accuse anyone. I simply said that our situation had changed and that I wanted to update our files. The manager checked his computer and confirmed that Eric's name appeared with certain rights because of the power of attorney. I asked what could be done to limit that now that I was present and able to handle my own matters. He explained the steps. They involved more forms and signatures. They also involved time. I agreed to all of it. I signed where he pointed. Anna signed some pages too. We left the bank with fewer answers than I wanted, but with a clear start. The first line of defense was being drawn. That evening, back at home, I sat in my chair by the office window and watched the light fade. I was tired in my bones, but my mind felt organized. In 2 days, we had moved from a hospital bed, where others spoke for us, to our own house, our own lawyer, and our own bank meeting. Eric did not know the details yet. He thought he still held all the strings. He thought tomorrow would look like yesterday. I knew that tomorrow would be different, not because of any loud action, but because of a slow, careful chain of steps that had already begun. The next days felt like the slow click of gears turning. Owen and I met again in his office with the blue folder spread out between us. He had already read everything carefully. Now he explained it to me and to Anna in simple words. He did not rush. He knew I was still tired, and he wanted us to understand every line. He showed us the old will, the one we had made when Eric was still young. Back then, we had left almost everything to him, with only a few small gifts to relatives and charities. He pointed to the clause we had discussed years ago, the one about respect and care. It was there, in neat legal language, but we had never thought we might use it. Then he showed us the power of attorney document. He went through the sections that gave Eric wide control. He did not blame us for signing it. He just tapped the paper with his finger and said very clearly that this part had to change. Now. He told us that as long as I was clear and able to decide, we could revoke this power and create a new one. We could also change the will. He suggested something else, too. A living trust that would hold our house and savings while we were still alive. The trust would have written rules that no one could change on a whim. Anna listened with her hands clenched around her bag. Legal language made her nervous. Owen noticed. He slowed down. He used words like box, key, and instructions. He said the trust would be like a box that held our things with a clear list of who could open it and when. I asked the questions. It was almost like being back at work. I wanted to know who would be the trustee, what would happen if I became unable to decide later, what would happen after both of us were gone. Owen answered each question calmly. He said that we could place ourselves as trustees for now and name a backup who was not Eric. We did not have other children. We did not have close siblings left. For a moment, that fact sat heavy in the room. Then Owen suggested a professional trustee service, someone who would follow the rules on the page and nothing else. No feelings, no pressure. Just the instructions we wrote now. The idea felt cold at first. Then I realized that maybe that was what we needed. A neutral guard at the door of our small world. We agreed. The next step was to draw up the new documents. Owen said he would prepare a new will, a trust, and a revocation of the old power of attorney. He would also create a new, limited power of attorney between Anna and me. In that one, we would give each other support, not give control to someone else. He said he could have the drafts ready in a few days. In the meantime, he wanted us to gather any more papers we had at home. Bank letters, insurance policies, property tax notices. He said that the more complete the picture, the easier it would be to protect ourselves. At home, Anna and I worked slowly through the drawers and cupboards. I sat in my chair, and she brought me stacks of envelopes and files. I sorted them into neat piles. Some of the papers were so old that the ink had faded. Still, each one told a small part of our story. We found letters from banks, statements, insurance notes. We found old letters from Eric, too, from the time when he had needed money and had written in a softer tone. I did not enjoy seeing those words again, but I kept them. They showed a different side of him, one he liked to forget now. All this time, Eric kept calling and sending messages. At first, Anna answered most of them. He asked how I was and when the CARE conference would take place. He reminded her about the nursing home room, said they could not hold it forever. He sometimes sent her links to articles about older people needing support. Her answers were short. She said I was improving and that the doctors were waiting to see what I needed. She did not mention Owen. She did not mention the bank. She did not mention any of the papers spread across our small office. One evening, he called me directly. His voice on the phone was careful at first, almost friendly. He said he was glad I was home. He asked if I was thinking about bigger changes, like moving to a place with more help. He did not say facility or nursing home right away. He circled around the words. I told him that my first goal was to get stronger in my own house. I said that Anna and I were speaking with doctors and with a lawyer friend about our options. I used the word lawyer on purpose. There was a pause on the line. He laughed a little and said that of course we should check the paperwork. He did not ask which lawyer. He did not offer to join the meeting. He was not used to us making plans that did not begin and end with him. A few days later, Owen called with a calm, firm voice. The documents were ready. He wanted us to sign them in front of a notary and a witness. He had made the appointment at a small office building across town. He also suggested that after that, we go directly to the courthouse to file some of the papers. It would be efficient. Mr. Klein drove us again. The notary office was simple and clean. There were framed certificates on the wall and a plant in the corner. The notary, a middle-aged woman with glasses, checked our identification and went through each document page with us. First, we signed the revocation of the old power of attorney. As my pen moved over the paper, I felt something loosen inside me. I was correcting a mistake I had made in weakness. Anna signed her revocation too. The notary stamped both sheets and wrote the date. Then we signed the new power of attorney between Anna and me. It was not a wide, open door like the old one. It was narrower, with clear limits. It meant we could support each other in small tasks if one of us was too sick to handle them, but it did not hand over our lives. Next came the trust. It was a thick document. Owen had already explained it in his office, but the notary still read out the main parts. It named the trust, described the house and our savings, listed us as trustees, and set out what would happen if we could not manage later. There, the professional trustee service was named. We signed in all the marked spaces. The stamp came down again and again, making that solid sound Eric used to like when he was small. Now it sounded like a slow drum, marking the end of one way of living and the start of another. Finally, we signed the new will. It did not cut Eric out completely. That was not my goal. It changed the conditions. It placed the trust at the center. It also included a clear sentence linked to the old respect clause and to any attempt to move Anna or me against our wishes. When we were done, my hand shook from effort. The notary smiled and said we had handled a lot for one day. Owen thanked her and gathered the documents into 2 stacks, one for us, one for the next places. From there, we went to the courthouse. The building was tall and formal, with big steps and glass doors. Inside, people moved in quiet lines. I felt at home in that kind of place where things followed rules and there were counters for every task. Owen led us to the registry counter. We took a number and waited on a bench. When our turn came, he explained to the clerk which documents needed to be filed: the revocation of the old power of attorney, the notice of the new trust holding our property, and some updated information for the land records. The clerk checked everything. She stamped and scanned in her own rhythm. She asked a few questions and made notes on her screen. When she was done, she handed us receipts with dates and reference numbers. Those small pieces of paper felt as important as any big document. They were proof that the system now knew what we had done. Back outside, the air felt lighter. We sat for a moment on a bench near the steps. Anna leaned her head on my shoulder. She was tired, but there was a softness in her face I had not seen since before my fall. We were no longer standing on shifting sand. Over the next week, things continued to move quietly. The bank processed the changes. Our accounts were now tied more closely to the trust. The professional trustee service sent us a letter confirming their role if certain triggers ever occurred. All of this happened in the background, like the slow setting of a foundation. During that time, Owen also prepared something else, a simple invitation to a care planning and financial review meeting. It was addressed to Eric and Tessa, to Ms. Patel at the hospital, and to the director of a nearby retirement community, a place Owen recommended. The meeting was set for a Friday afternoon. When he showed me the draft, I read it twice. The words were neutral. They spoke about aligning expectations, discussing support for Anna and me, and reviewing documents together. Nowhere did they hint at what had already been signed and filed. I approved it. I wanted everything to look ordinary from the outside. Eric responded to the invitation quickly. He wrote that he was glad we were finally taking this seriously and that he would be there with Tessa. He asked if he should bring any real estate market data. Owen answered with a short line: "Just bring yourself." On the morning of the meeting, we had one more appointment. We went to the retirement community itself. It was not the nursing home Eric had contacted. It was a different place with bright windows, gardens, and small apartments instead of just rooms. Director Barnes met us in the lobby. She had kind eyes, but a businesslike way of speaking. She showed us around. There was a small common room, a dining area, and a path outside where residents walked or sat on benches. The apartment she had set aside for us was modest but warm. There was no step at the entrance. The bathroom had rails. Anna walked through the room slowly, her hand on the wall. I watched her face. At first, there was fear. Then I saw something else. Relief. It was not our old house, but it was also not a narrow room in a long corridor. It was a place where we could live together, not where one of us would be placed. We sat at a small table in the apartment and signed the lease. The trust would pay the monthly costs. The professional trustee would see that the payments stayed regular, even if Eric one day tried to interfere. Director Barnes confirmed each detail in writing. When we returned to the lobby, she told us that later that day there would be a meeting in their small conference room. She would act as host. Owen would present some of the documents. Ms. Patel would be there as an observer from the hospital. Eric and Tessa were expected. We went home for a few hours to rest and to pick up a few personal items. Anna chose some photos, a blanket, a small plant from the kitchen window. I packed them carefully in a bag. We would bring them back after the meeting. It felt less like moving out and more like moving forward. In the afternoon, Owen picked us up himself. He wanted to arrive with us. In the car, he went over the plan one last time. He reminded me that we did not have to raise our voices. We did not have to argue. All we had to do was let the facts and the papers speak. When we stepped into the retirement community lobby again, the light from the large windows fell over the floor in broad stripes. I saw Eric and Tessa sitting on a sofa, looking at their phones. They glanced up, surprised to see us walking in together with Owen. Anna straightened her back beside me. A staff member came to lead us toward the conference room. I stood up slowly, smoothed my jacket, and followed, step by careful step, with my wife at my side. The conference room had glass walls and a long table in the center. A projector sat at one end, already on, its light pointed at a white screen. There were water glasses on small paper mats, and a plate with untouched cookies near the middle. Director Barnes greeted everyone and asked us to sit. She took a chair near the screen. Ms. Patel sat on one side with a small folder and a tablet. Owen sat beside me and Anna with his leather briefcase in front of him. Eric and Tessa sat across from us. Eric leaned back in his chair, one arm over the backrest, as if he expected to lead the meeting. Director Barnes opened the meeting with a short introduction. She said that we were there to talk about care, housing, and finances for Anna and me. She said the goal was to make sure everyone understood the same plan. Her tone was neutral, but she turned slightly toward me when she spoke about wishes. Eric spoke first without being asked. He said that he was glad things were finally moving forward. He said he had been worried for a long time about us staying in the old house. He told the room that he held power of attorney and had already prepared a place in a nursing home for his mother, in case I did not recover. He spoke about safety and practicality. He said that he was ready to make hard choices. He mentioned our house again and said that it could be sold to fund better care. His words were smooth, but I could hear the same pattern as in the hospital hallway. When he finished, Owen folded his hands on the table and spoke in a quiet voice. He said that he was our longtime lawyer and that there had been important changes since Eric last saw the documents. He explained that when I came out of the coma, medical staff had judged me to be aware and able to decide. He laid the first document on the table, turned it so it faced Eric, and slid it toward him. He said that this was the revocation of the old power of attorney, signed and filed. He added that from that date, Eric no longer had the right to act in our name. Eric frowned and picked up the paper. He read the heading, then looked up. He said he had not agreed to that. Owen replied that his agreement was not needed. The law allowed me to cancel the power as soon as I was competent again. Then Owen placed the second set of documents on the table. He said that we had created a living trust that now held the house and our savings. He explained that Anna and I were the trustees and that, if we could not manage later, a professional service would follow our written instructions. He added that no other person had control over that trust and that its rules were already registered. Tessa asked in a tight voice what this meant for the house. Owen answered that the house was no longer a simple asset that could be sold by a son with a signature. It was property held for our benefit under strict terms. Any move or sale outside those terms would be blocked. I watched Eric's face as he heard this. He tried to keep a calm expression, but his fingers tapped on the table. He asked what would happen after we were both gone. Owen said that this was written in the new will and that it included behavior conditions tied to the older respect clause. Any attempt to push us into unwanted placements or to treat us as a burden would affect what came next. At that point, the projector hummed a little louder, and the first slide came up on the screen. It showed a simple list of dates: hospital admission, first care conference, our discharge, the filing dates for the new documents. Underneath, Owen had added a short line from one of Eric's messages to Tessa, the line about the old lady going to a nursing home as soon as he is gone. Eric said that it was private. Ms. Patel spoke then, in her calm voice. She said that the phrase on the screen matched what she had heard from him in the hospital hallway. She said that, as a social worker, she had been concerned about the focus on placement and property when my condition was still unclear. Director Barnes added that, whatever had been said before, the present facts were simple. Anna and I had chosen to live together in this community, in an apartment already signed under our trust. She said the staff would follow our directions, not anyone else's. Owen placed one last envelope on the table in front of Eric. He said it held a formal notice of the changes, the revoked power of attorney, the trust details, and the updated will sections that explained Eric's reduced role. He suggested that Eric read it later, in private, and if he wished, speak to his own lawyer. There was a long silence. Tessa looked down at her hands. Eric stared at the envelope, but did not touch it. Ms. Patel closed her folder. The projector light dimmed as Owen turned it off. I pushed my chair back and stood up slowly. My legs were not strong, but they were steady. I turned to Anna and offered her my hand. She took it and rose beside me. I thanked Director Barnes and Ms. Patel for their time. I nodded to Owen. Then I walked with Anna toward the door. The glass walls reflected us as we passed. An older couple, not as strong as before, but still standing on their own feet. As we stepped out into the bright lobby, the door behind us closed with a soft click. Eric remained at the table, the thick envelope lying in front of him, unopened.